It's my purpose here at the end of the semester to show you that there's still plenty of great art and music being made in our own day. Despite all the confusion of relativism and cynicism that's out there, there's still a thoughtful minority of artists who believe in beauty and the communicative power of human design and are working very hard to bless you and me with opportunities to contemplate what you and I would recognize as the glory of God. So, as an example of music, I'm having you learn a piece of music written in the 21st century by the American composer Paul Moravec. Today he's 62 years old and works at Adelphi College on Long Island. But he grew up in Buffalo, New York. His parents are actually from the Beaver area. Here's a picture of him standing in front of the house his dad grew up in, about an hour southwest of Grove City. In the late 1990s, he was afflicted with clinical depression of the most severe kind. It was really debilitating, but he received treatment that was successful. And coming out of that, he was even more fruitful as a composer. In fact, in 2004, he received the highest award that an American composer can receive, the Pulitzer Prize, for a piece that he wrote based on Shakespeare's play, The Tempest. Coming back from depression, I identified with Prospero and his melancholy and his downcast state. Through the power of imagination, he improves his condition. And so that's what I did as a composer. The piece we're studying is long. It's 18 minutes. And I can't ask you to learn that much music here at the end of the semester. So while I'm encouraging you to listen to the whole thing, it's fantastic, I'm going to have you listen to 2 excerpts for a total of about 7 minutes. So less than half the total piece. The piece is entitled Morph. It's a concerto for string quartet and orchestra. And the title refers to transformation and change. Above all, this piece is about musical transformation and how the attributes of certain musical ideas set in relation to one another could or should lead to certain kinds of musical changes and expectations at points of arrival. To help us think that musical process through, though, Moravec invites us to think about change in our own lives. And to that end, he invokes the old myth of Daphne and Apollo, especially in the version that comes to us through Ovid. Apollo, of course, is the sun god. Daphne is a water nymph. And capricious Cupid strikes them both with magical arrows. The arrow that hits Apollo is one that makes him fall in love. The arrow that hits Daphne is one that repulses her from love. And so you see the problem. The piece of music unfolds in 6 sections that clearly follow the course of the story. In the first half minute, we hear in graphically violent detail the striking of the arrows in loud, dissonant, percussive sounds in the orchestra. There follows about 3 minutes portraying the wonder that the god and the nymph experience as they make sense of the wounds they've received and realize the change that's taken place in their souls. And then at about 3.5 minutes into the piece, the the god begins to chase after the nymph who tries to escape. This is terrifying music. Then, about 7 minutes into the piece, the god catches up with the nymph, and she prays to her father, the river god, to save her in whatever way he can. And so she is turned into a tree, a laurel tree. And that metamorphosis then is depicted at about 7 minutes. Apollo comes to his senses at about 11 minutes into the work, and we hear his remorse as he takes responsibility for what he's done, and he cannot undo it, but he does decide to do what he can do to make things right toward his victim. He makes the laurel tree his symbol forever. And at the very end of Ovid's poem, and at the very end of Moravec's concerto, the branches of the tree stir as if to acknowledge the god's tribute. Okay, so we're now going to listen to the first 6 minutes of the concerto, the arrows, the wonder, the flight. There are certain musical ideas that I want you to learn so well that you can recognize them when they come back. In other words, themes. The music you hear at the very beginning is an arrows theme. The music at 28 seconds is a wonder theme. And then at about 1 minute and 24 seconds, there's the main theme of the whole concerto. that's a terrible place to stop the music. The chase is at its most intense. The nymph is nearly in the god's clutches, but for the sake of time now, I will stop there. I do want to play for you one more little snippet closer to the end of the piece. I want you to hear how the melody from 1 minute and 24 seconds comes back utterly transformed at 13 minutes and 23 seconds as the god comes to terms with reality and decides to make things right as best as he can. So there you have it. Even in the 21st century, you have composers who are willing to do the hard work of creating musical designs that will reward careful attention and use of our memory, use of our imagination with open hearts. This is not complicated music to understand. You don't even need to know things like sonata, allegro form, or key changes or any of that kind of stuff. You just have to pay attention and notice things.